Hey there, it's Andrea, and welcome to the Voice of Influence podcast. Today I have with me Ashley B. Stewart. Ashley has served as a trusted coach and advisor to over 2,000 executives. As founder and CEO of the Corian Group, he tailors leadership solutions that harness authentic power and deep self awareness. Ashley also serves as a senior advisor for transformational leadership at McKinsey and Company, and previously led organizational development for Baltimore Public Schools. He holds degrees from Morehouse College, Harvard University, and the Broad Center, with certifications in leadership coaching, race consciousness, and emotional intelligence. Welcome to the Voice of Influence podcast, Ashley B. Stewart.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me on your platform. Good to be with you today.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm curious, first of all, what is kind of a day to day or week to week kind of, what does this look like for you and your business? It sounds like you're doing a lot of different things.
I am. The Corian Group, we are a global consultancy, but more than that, we are a space for transformation. So we partner with leaders and organizations who are ready to shift, not just so that they do things differently, but that they are actually different in themselves. So a day in the life looks like lots of client calls, spending time with leaders, executives who are either going through major transformations in their organizations, coaching calls, helping to me, my team in the background, helping to start or continue through what we call culture transformation journeys or leadership team effectiveness journeys. And so I'm organizing a whole set of amazing facilitators who work in my practice. And we go out and we help teams to be better. We help teams to be better from the inside out. So a lot of our work is deep inner work. It's deep inner work that has bold outer impact. We combine somatics, systems thinking, adaptive leadership with a very liberatory lens. And what we're trying to do is guide our clients through the learning process, right? To help them hold tensions and thresholds that come with real change and to give them some more resiliency and anchoring. And that work takes time. So we work with clients over a 10 to 12 to 18 month arc to help them hold the weight of their systems and to help them to show up even more clarified to be the leaders they need to be in these times of change.
How long have you been doing this particular work? I mean, you must have been doing it for quite a while.
I've been doing some form of transformation work probably for the last 19 and a half
Yeah.
years. I've been running the Corian Group for the past 4 years. At each sort of juncture in my career, I've gotten a little bit more skill and nuance to how humans transform and metamorphosize, right?
Yeah.
I started out as a teacher, as a 11th grade geometry and chemistry teacher, but I was so preoccupied with what the headmaster was doing and the conversations the board were having. That was my first indication that I was really keenly interested in how adults make decisions and how we, make decisions on behalf of larger systems. And so at every juncture of my career, I noticed this breadcrumb trail of being fascinated about adult behavior change and adult development. And eventually I woke up and wised up to a real purpose-driven way of being for me, which is around vertical development and helping adults come to the realization that we're part of the mess that we're creating, and therefore we can be part of the solution too.
Yeah, love that. Okay, so I actually was also a teacher. That's where I
Really?
started too. Yeah,
Yes.
I started music education. And so now I'm doing the Voice of Influence podcast with Voice of Influence is the title of everything that we're doing right now. So anyway, it's interesting to hear how you went and developed into what you're doing today. And I'm curious if you were, when you were little, when you were just a kid, Were you interested in how people were working and why people were doing what they were doing? What was it? Was there any indication that Ashley would be in the position that he is today?
You know, on first blush, I would say probably not. As a kid, I wanted to be an architect. I wanted to build houses and build subdivisions. When I was a kid, I grew up in Southern Maryland. I didn't know what a subdivision was, to be honest. It's very rural, very country. It's clearly much more built up now than it was when I was a young person. And I wanted to build houses and homes, and I wanted to have my own architectural firm that housed landscaping, interior design, the whole thing. But I was also an only child for the first 12 years of my life. And so I sat in adult conversations, or I sat in the room where adults were having conversations, because I was raised in a time where, and in a house where children were seen, not heard. So I listened to a lot of adult conversation growing up. And I think probably somewhere in there, I got fascinated with how adults communicate socially and those kinds of things. And they talk about their jobs, and they talk about, what's happening at the local, grocery store, those kinds of things. But I wouldn't have known. Now, if you ask people from high school, and I had there was a high school friend a couple of weeks ago, and he said, "Oh, we always knew you'd be doing what you're doing now." I was like, "Really?" He's like, "Yeah, you used to like giving speeches. You were in student government. You were in every student leadership. You were the student member on the Board of Education." And I remember specifically that every Thursday I would dress up for no good reason at all. I just wanted to dress up. And so I remember always having a very serious air about myself. Not like I took myself too seriously, but I don't know. I could always envision a life where I'd be talking to people. And my, God rest her soul, Carol Lilly, my guidance counselor in high school, said, "Ashley, I don't really see you as an architect. I can't see you sitting, in a quiet office by yourself. I see you more as a politician." I didn't go that route either. But I do see how there are threads of me being with people, facilitating people, helping people to draw out conversation that helps them to hold greater compassion and to see their own humanity, so that they can see the humanity of other people that are in their employ. I can see a little bit of how that thread came about in my life, but I think it was because I started listening very early. I started listening to conversations, and that's a lot of what I do today, is listening to what adults are saying and listen to what they aren't saying, and help them to dial into that place, to dial into the unconscious areas that are either limiting them or are holding them hostage to being a much more productive leader with a higher quality of life.
Why do you think you care about it?
I think I care for several reasons. One of the most sort of accessible reasons that I care is I have two daughters. They are 13 and 11. And what I want most for them, out of anything in this world, is for them to be free. I also recognize for them to be free, to be themselves, to allow their brilliance to shine, everybody has to be free. It's not just them. So part of the work we do at the Corian Group is transformation. It isn't about fixing, it's about remembering and allowing people to remember who they are, what we care about, and what we're capable of when we're fully resourced. I also care because I think liberation is necessary for people. I think in systems, in our society, we are ushered into a way of being that meets a particular outcome. In the companies that I serve and the clients I work with, people are moving in a direction to get a product to market, or they are assembled in a way that allows them to produce a service for the public. And we get in that system and we find ourselves mixing our identity with who we are with what we do.
Yeah.
That gets layered. It gets layered in the house, in the home.
Yeah.
Dad, a dad, a father. It's a role I play. It's not who I am. And so I think it's really important that, especially in a corporate or a workspace, we can begin to at least internally decouple our identities with who we are and what we do, because they may not be the same. And when we have that kind of clarification, what happens is we stop bringing things to the role that don't serve. And we start bringing things to our roles that actually increase our productivity, increase our sense of belonging, and allow us to be less fragmented as people and live more whole, fulfilled lives. So I care because I want people to have that. I run the Corian Group, and it's like breathing. I mean, it is pure joy. Now, some moments, I'm gonna be clear, some moments are like breathing up when you're walking uphill. It's a labored process, right? But I'm still breathing. And I want other people, I want everyone to experience the ease of walking in work that they're designed to do, walking in some ways, their roles at work that don't cause so much strain on who we are as people. That's why I care.
You said you've been, working with executives for many years, and I'm wondering if over the past, let's say, since pre-pandemic, what kinds of nuanced changes have you seen in what executives are needing, and especially maybe even today, which is different than maybe 6 months ago?
That makes me think of a moment in a recent executive seminar where a C-suite leader stood up. They were visibly emotional and said, "This is the first time I've ever felt like I could bring my full self into this leadership team." It's that right there. That's why we do what we do, because transformation isn't theoretical, it's personal. And I think that's what leaders need more and more. The world, some say we live in a VUCA world, the new term is now banny, right?
Say that again.
Banny, BANI. It's even more brittle, anxious, all these things. And I don't think it's just about better KPIs and stronger, tighter strategy decks. It's about creating conditions where people feel seen, stretched, and supported, where we can stop performing and start leading from a deeper, truer place. I think now more than ever, I'm seeing C-suite executives needing that, leaning into that, not quite sure how to get there. That how is fuzzy, right? And that how is vulnerable, because it's how do I take down or shed a mask that I've been holding up so well for the past 15, 16 years, right? What will happen to my reputation? What will happen to the company? What will happen to how I move in my promotions? And I think right now people are looking for permission to perform less and be more. And that's something that we get to help leaders do every day, which makes it a pure joy for me, but it is not always an easy process.
You were talking just now about perform less and be more. Earlier, you made a distinction between roles and identity. How would you define being and identity? What is it about the human that makes them who they are that doesn't relate to their roles?
I think we are beings who gravitate to roles. We gravitate to ways of explaining self, ways of relating, titles and positions and roles that help us to understand the many parts of self. I think that, let me speak for me, personal, local, and immediate. as a Black man, I have spent the earlier part of my career trying to figure out how to fit into a corporate environment and space, how I turn up the dial on my uh, language and communication skills, and turn down the dial on the parts of me that are more emotional, right? The parts of me that get impassioned about things, because that's not how a Black male professional is supposed to grow up. So I thought, and I think I have, as an example, um, occupied a space and a way of being, a way of doing things over and over again. And I start to conflate my way of doing with who I really am, with my being, so much so that it gets really blurry, right? And I can over identify with being an executive, or I can over identify with being XYZ title. For instance, I used to say, when I was with Baltimore City Public Schools, I would introduce myself and I say, good morning, my name is Ashley B. Stewart, and I serve as the executive director. That language is very important to me. It also signals to the room and to my brain that I am not my role.
Yeah, that's
But
good.
I'm a full person, and I'm capable, and I'm lots of things, but this role am I not. It's a role I play, right? It's a role I perform, it's a role I lean into, and I bring all of my experience to it. So I think one of the frames that has helped me to sort of parse this out, it's what's called the person role system. It's a social psychological framework that says we are all people with values, beliefs, experiences, attitudes, habits, traumas. And in that person, we play roles, formally and informally. At work, church, synagogue, community group, wherever. We play a role. Friend, uncle, aunt, podcast host, in a system. And in those systems, there are other people playing roles, and we bounce around, and it gets really confusing. And I think when we're able to understand just how strongly our person is, just how strong our person is and how strongly our person shows up, we can then see that, wait a minute, you and I both could host podcasts, but the way that we show up in those roles is going to be different, because who you are as a person, your unique magic in the world is very different from mine. And so I'm not on this thing where, oh, we're all really special. Yeah, we are really special, but it's more than that. It's we are who we are. And my way of being gets conflated with my doing, because I don't sit still long enough and reset and really understand what my purpose is, or who I am, not what I do. So doing and being gets conflating all the time. What we haven't talked about, but what gets conflating is the being, the doing, and the knowing. What do
Okay.
I know about my role? What do I know about systems? What do I know about myself? And what I help people do is to know more about who they are, so that they can figure out how they want to be. And when they have that, then they show up differently in role.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. Um, okay. How does race consciousness play into all this? So is that a part of our identity? Is that, talk to me about how that plays in.
So if we look at racial consciousness, those two words, racial meaning of race, about race, period. Consciousness, awareness of something, awareness of race, awareness of something that's racial. Racial consciousness for us isn't an add-on or a separate track. It's a part of the water we're swimming in. It's a part of the air we breathe. Everyone on this planet has a race. Now, a race is a social construct. But if you look up race in the dictionary, race is color. It's phenotype. Every one of us has that. And if we're serious about transformation, then we have to be willing to see the ways that race, identity, and power shape our leadership, even unconsciously. So racial consciousness is about being aware of how race shows up in the room, of how race gets mediated, of how race impacts and influences our decisions. They impact the things that we've inherited around how we see power, how we share space with other people. So we work with people to map their own racial journeys, to notice what they've inherited, and to choose what they want to carry forward. None of us, most of us in the United States, I should say, have spent time at all studying, looking at, thinking about our identity as race. Think about when you were a young person, right? We were told and got very, subtle cues on how to be a gender, on how to play a role as a parent, if we had parents in the home, on how to, play a role as say something on television. But we didn't get a lot of work in how we think about ourselves as racialized beings and what that means for how we show up in culture, or anything about how we move consciously through the world with other people and other races. Some of us got very explicit messages about race, right? And some of them are not very positive and some are positive. So what we help people to do is to start to unpack, what has race meant to me in my life, right? We help them to dial into, what was my first set of experiences around race? How has that shaped how I view race now? Well, why is that important? Racial consciousness is about presence. It's about being awake to ourselves, to being awake to each other, and to the systems that we're navigating. And then asking, how do I lead with more humanity, with more clarity, and more courage? I cannot disrupt, interrupt, or make anything better if I can't see it.
That's right.
Right? So racial consciousness is just about seeing. And it starts with seeing my own. Because if I can understand how race impacts my life, whether it's a little bit or a whole lot, then I can hold the space for other people to have their own experiences and to validate them. I think that race gets a really bad rap because sometimes when we hear race, we think racism, or we hear race and we think of color or Black or Hispanic or Asian. And white is a race. White is a color. So therefore, white people have cultures. Black people have cultures. And there's a consciousness that lives in race because we have social conditioning and lived experiences in the skin that we're in. So it's just another layer of identity that I think if we continue to ignore, it's only going to continue to divide us. And it's going to have major impacts for how people show up in the workplace and how productive people will be or not.
What are your thoughts on how we should be talking about it right now, in the midst of kind of some pressure to not talk about it?
Well, I think given current context and even before current context of how the current conversations about race are being ushered in the political, larger societal environment, I think delicately. And I say that because not that I want anyone to shrink back from talking about race. Actually, I want people to be more honest and have more embodied conversations about race. But I think the way that I dial into my racial consciousness and help others do it is this, that the first place to speak from is the I voice. My experience, I think, I feel, I believe, and not attempt to speak for all of these people, this community, this subset of folks, and really focus in on here's what my experience is as a Black person. Here's what my experience is as an Asian person. Here's my experience as fill in the blank. I think that's a beautiful place to start. I also recognize that the term DEI is under attack, right? And the work that comes from that term and that portfolio, that body of work. And there are organizations and leaders and companies who are making all kinds of decisions about ways in which they're going to support diversity, equity, and inclusion work. I think the conversation about race has to continue because we still all have races. Like that's not going anywhere. I still have a race, you still have a race. I think I say walk into it delicately is because it's one thing for me to have my own perspective, my own sense of self and race. It's another for me to have an analysis of my experience, right? So I know about Ashley. I am a self-expert in Ashley. And most people are self-experts in themselves, the more conscious and aware we are about how we move and how we operate, who we be. And on top of that, I may not have an analysis or I may not have consciousness or awareness of how other people understand their race. I may not understand how Hispanic people, for instance, come into consciousness about their race. I'm a practitioner who studies that, who gets very serious and deep about how people come into consciousness. Most people don't. So I think we should continue to have conversations about race, anchor them in our own racial journeys, and start from there. But none of this is going to continue to help us move forward with progress if we aren't first speaking our truths, if we aren't sharing from a very personal place. And another thing that gets us out of the conversation is when we walk away, when we disengage. And I think that is not going to serve us well as a country. It's not going to serve us well as we are trying to continue to be functioning in our businesses, to provide in the social sector for the causes we care about. I think we actually have to lean in and stay engaged in the conversation about race and how it's impacting what we're trying to do and who we're trying to be.
Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. And I'm wondering also, see, it feels connected, this idea of authentic power that you talk about. What is authentic power?
I almost want to turn that back to you. When you hear authentic power, what do you hear? What comes for you?
For me, I guess I would think of it as a sense of calm confidence in what I'm bringing to the table. And whether that be, and when I think about power, I think about all kinds of power dynamics, but maybe the part that I like more is about what kind of ways that we can mutually influence each other and how that is thrown around, I guess. So those are the things that I think about, but I'm curious, like authentic power, how do you define it then?
I love what you just said.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I do.
Good, then we're
I love what you just said because I think authentic power is the capacity to be deeply rooted in who you are. It's beneath the performance. It's beneath the armor. And that's where we tap into the ability to lead from a place with clarity and courage. It's not the kind of power that dominates or controls. It's the kind of power that expands what's possible in a room because your presence is anchored. Your intentions are clear And then your actions can be aligned from there. Authentic power says, I know who I am, I know what I stand for, and I'm willing to move with purpose, even when the grounding beneath me is shifting. Right? It begins with presence. It's all about an embodied permission. That's what I want to say. My ability to be fully in my body, to hold complexity. Not that I'm just a good person or a bad person. We got to stop that too. We are people. We do good things, we do bad things. To hold that complexity and then to walk into the fire without flinching. Not because we're fearless, but because we're centered. I think it's a power that liberates. And I think to your point, and why I love what you said, it liberates not just you, but it liberates other people around you. Because when you're leading from that place, people feel it. And it doesn't demand attention. It doesn't scream, look at me, I'm leading them into my authentic power. It resonates. It resonates with other people, and it gives them silent permission to do the same.
I think it's really hard to draw other people out, to make that kind of a space in a room when you feel less than, or you feel as a person that's trying to lead this, when you need to figure yourself out, kind of thing, or you feel a need to be seen and needed and valued and whatnot. It's almost, it feels to me like a sign of maturity and ability to, I don't know, be a little less selfish, to focus more on drawing other people out.
Yeah, I think we all need to feel seen and heard and validated and loved.
Okay, I'm not going to deny that. But if
That,
you already feel that way, you can
yeah.
provide that then as well.
And even sometimes when I don't feel that way, I can still provide
Sure.
space. For me, it's so the example that comes up for me is this. I offer interactive keynotes, which I might be sitting in a room or standing in a room with 100 people or 1,000 people, right? And inevitably in that workshop or that interactive keynote or that seminar, that forum, I'm going to set people to work. They're going to be in a small group conversation, or I will put them in a table conversation. And so it gets loud. And I need to always call people back to the full group because there's something I want to offer, an instruction, or I want to do something as a facilitator. You've been in these spaces, right? Yes?
Yeah.
And facilitators can use all kinds of tricks and mnemonics and devices to get people to bring people's attention back to the front. You are a teacher, so you know this quite well. I have these chimes that I use that call people attention together. But what I found is if I really want to draw people's attention back to the front and have them stop talking, I can stand at the front, at the back, at the side, or the middle of the room. And what I say to myself is, I am a force that brings people together. And I want their attention. I need their attention. And I say that to myself out loud and quietly, and I stand. And every room I've ever been in, without a chime, without a bell, when I hold that presence, people stop talking, they look up, and eventually they come back to center. That is me holding the space to be of service to the group in a particular way.
That's cool.
And I didn't have to shout it, right?
Yeah.
But I just held the space and the presence. Now, in my person, I'm like, we're running down on time. I got to get people back in. I have to hold that for a moment, breathe, and hold the space, right? And I might say, may I please have your attention in just that voice. Crowded conference room. And people will slowly bring themselves back in, regardless of what conversation they're in. I think that is an embodied way to sort of get to what you're talking about around being able to be of service to people, being able to do a thing, and to put whatever I need or want in that moment aside to serve the greater good.
That's cool.
It's cool. It's cool to see. It's cool
Yeah.
to feel. Yeah, it really is.
I feel like we could keep talking for quite a while, but I've got a couple questions left for
Please.
you. And the first one is, when you have had really good mentors in the past, I'm sure you have adopted some of their practices, and I'm wondering, or the things that they were able to do, is there anything that you have adopted that you continue to do that you're wanting to pass on in that mentorship kind of capacity? What do you see? Yeah, we're just looking for some thoughts on that.
I have amazing mentors. Let me just say that. Shout out to all my mentors. They are just beautiful people who see me fully. I think what I have learned from them is that sponsorship, mentorship really starts with relationship. It's not transactional, right? And so they take time to see me. They take time to ask about my children. They take time to inquire about my health, to inquire about other aspects of my life that are not just running my business, right? They recognize that who I am as a person and how I be impacts what I do and how well I do it and with the quality of interaction that I'm able to do that with. So I think the first thing that I take from them is that that kind of exchange is not transactional, it's transformational and it's relational. That's one, right? So really deeply seeing another human being. Another thing that I take from their mentoring is that it takes a good amount of trust to be able to say the hard thing to someone sometimes, right? To be able to help people to name a truth or to name something that we resist seeing. And a good mentor will do that. A good mentor will say, well, I'm noticing a pattern here, right? Of you avoiding this conversation with staff. You avoid that kind of conversation with your spouse. And so what is it about that pattern? What is it about that avoidance, and helps people to dial into what's not being spoken or what's being avoided? And they walk you through a gentle way of seeing that, right? And so that gives me a sense of relationship with them, but it also helps me to have the courage to face maybe an issue or a problem or a pattern that I might not have wanted to see, might not have wanted to see, or that it might have been really difficult for me to see and face and name. And they kind of hold your hand and allow you to step into some awareness, some consciousness about what might be going on and what might be getting in the way. I think good mentors do those. And so I think those have been two characteristics of mentors in my life and things that I try to pass on as I work to mentor others who are in the field of coaching or leadership transformation or just starting a business.
Those are good. Okay, so how can people find or connect with you, Ashley?
I hope that people will hear what I've said and want to stay connected. They can find us on the World Wide Web at coriangroup.com. They can also find us on LinkedIn. If anything I've shared today resonated, especially around adaptability or resilience or leading from a place of being centered, we've helped leaders navigate change with more grace and grounding. They can learn more at our website, coriangroup.com. We're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn. They can find me or the Corian Group in either one of those platforms. And I hope that that folks reach out, and that if I'm not the right resource, I know lots of other resources, I'm able to connect them to them as well.
Okay, one last question. If you could offer one challenge to someone who wants to help shape the future, what would it be?
I'd say that you're not behind, you're becoming. And if you want to shape the future, to find a moment, time, space in your day regularly, 3 minutes gets it, and ask the most strategic thing they can do in that moment of pause, which is what's trying to emerge in me now. Not what is, but what is trying to emerge in me now. And from there, what am I supposed to be doing that's aligned with my being? Meditating on those questions, writing them down, putting them on a sticky note, on the mirror, and just sitting with that in a walk, sitting with that at the desk waiting for Zoom to open, I think really starts to reset my internal operating system, that lets me know that there's more to happen, there's more to come. And how do I stand in my authentic power as you've defined it?
Thank you so much for your time today. This has been great.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate what you do in the world. Keep doing it and keep taking care of yourself and other people. Thanks so much.